This page is the absolute classic cover of N64 Pro, issue 12 from October 98. Right there front and center you've got the main man Captain Falcon himself hyping up what they're calling the biggest review in the galaxy for F-Zero-X. Sounds about right, that game was blisteringly fast. They're also shouting about hefty coverage for Mission Impossible. Apparently impossible not to get hooked, eh? Plus the all-important UK review of 1080 snowboarding, telling you straight up whether to bother with imports. Is98 gets a world-exclusive tag, calling it the greatest footy game. Strong words, let's see if they delivered. And look, Banjo and Kazooie are there for their ultimate guide. You've also got a preview snippet for Earthworm Jim 3D, dishing the dirt on that nasty worm, and promises of hints and tips for everything, even classics like GoldenEye and World Cup 98. A packed cover, this one. This page starts off with a rather official-looking spread for GT64, Championship Edition, framed like some sort of official international competitive driver's contract. Rule number 1, always be considerate for the safety of other competitors, followed immediately by the crucial exception, unless they're in front of you. Very sporting. It promises racing around 12 tracks with 12 licensed teams, driving you into convulsions of pure gameplay-related ecstasy, thanks to the fastest 3D engine on the N64. It throws down the gauntlet with the question, can you pass the N64 driving test? The screenshots certainly show some competitive action going on. Flipping over to the right side, we get a fun introduction to the team, admitting that Banjo-Kazooie has taken over our lives. No surprise there, given the cover. Each team member is represented by a character from the game. There's Alex the Walrus, Jim the Carrot, Steve the Musical Note, Noelle the Kazooie, Mark the Mumbo, and Lewis the Toilet. Each gets a little quote explaining their choice, giving a bit of personality to the staff. It's a clever way to tie into the game they're clearly mad about. This page lays out the contents for issue 12, October 1998. It's the main index, showing off all the juicy bits inside, broken down into sections like news, previews, reviews, regulars, and more. F-Zero-X takes the coveted spot as the cover story, with a big splash suggesting it could be the best sequel ever, a bold claim. Featured visuals tease games such as Body Harvest with a cool sci-fi character, Ethan from Mission Impossible looking ready for action, and the slightly peculiar but lovable Glover. You also get glimpses of high-octane racing in F-Zero-X, the beautiful game with Is98, space combat in Star Soldier, and the utterly charming Banjo-Kazooie. The review section looks particularly tasty, covering big titles like Mission Impossible, International Superstar Soccer, 98, Star Soldier, 1080 Degrees Snowboarding, and even the quirky Dizayman. Poor old Mark had to review both Star Soldier and Dizayman. Apparently, life can indeed get worse. There's also a feature on the Joytech steering wheel, and a promised cheats encyclopedia, the definitive guide, no less. And naturally, a search is on for Britain's top gamer. This news section covers several upcoming N64 titles. Body Harvest, a DMA design game, is praised for its original concept, vast scale, and mature themes, featuring vehicle control and nuclear weapons. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil is receiving positive feedback with new screenshots showcasing improved locations and lighting. Confirmation of the F-Zero DD link, due to discovered 64 DD hooks in F-Zero-X, hints at potential expansions. Finally, 1080 Degrees 2 is in development, and a rumor suggests a new skateboarding game, a potential sequel to Border 720 Degrees. This page kicks off the news revealing the sad fate of Gamertech and their Robotech game, and confirmation of an NBA courtside sequel from Nintendo's Left Field. We get a glimpse at the latest UK and N64 Pro charts, along with the most wanted upcoming games list. The South Park Bloodbath article details the upcoming first-person shooter running on a modified Turok 2 engine. Expect the show's unique brand of humor and weapons, apparently including a cow gun. Star Wars fans can get excited about Rogue Squadron from LucasArts, a flight sim looking promising and set for a Christmas release. EA Sports NHL 99 is highlighted as a visually stunning ice hockey sim. There's also news about Activision delving into Disney licensing, hinting at potential new N64 titles. Finally, the Banjo-Tooie mystery looks into the sequel to Banjo-Kazooie, suggesting secrets from the first game might be linked or revealed in the follow-up due in 1999. N64 news is packed, highlighting Eido's Fighting Force, upcoming Castlevania, and heavily discussed Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Miyamoto confirms a substantial 40-hour playtime, motion capture, and samurai involvement for realism. However, a potential delay for the English release to mid-January exists, despite a possible Christmas Japanese launch. Wipeout 64 has reportedly improved significantly, while EA Sports brings Premier League football and potential European League titles. Finally, Codemasters Micro Machines 64 Turbo promises 8-player action and enhanced graphics. The article features news about Shigeru Miyamoto attending the ECTS show in London, potentially boosting N64 interest. Upcoming features include the ISS British Championship and the F1 World Grand Prix, the latter slated for a review in the next issue due to its late arrival. Reviews are also planned for Koro Q64, Cruisin' World, and WWF Warzone, with positive early impressions on WWF Warzone's character models and special moves. The article also highlights graphic novels from Titan Books, including Batman, Other Realms, and The Crow. Finally, a large gameplay sales advert promotes consoles, games, and accessories for the N64. This page delves into the stats, breaking down the performance of different software houses on the N64 and introducing the N64 Pro Leagues. It explains that, like football leagues, publishers gain points based on game reviews, letting you see who's consistently putting out the good stuff. The overall picture shows that a decent chunk of games reviewed have been above average, which is always nice to hear. Nintendo, bless 'em, are sitting pretty atop the Premier League table, showing their dominance. Rare's had a bit of a hiccup but still made the Player of the Month with ISS World Cup 98, while Nintendo took a slight hit in the Hall of Fame. Poor old Mortal Kombat 4, published by GT Interactive, ended up in the Hall of Shame. Ouch. The Gen 64 Dream Team is picked, featuring the absolute best games around right now. We've got Witrix and Pilotwings locking down the defense and midfield, Banjo-Kazooie coming off the bench to replace Mario 64, a bold move, GoldenEye 007 still bossing it, and ISS World Cup 98 up front. Substitutes include Diddy Kong Racing and a few others, including Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64, who are still great quality players to have waiting in the wings. There's also a brief look at games due for review this month, and the results from last month's reviews, like Banjo-Kazooie scoring a solid 3 points for Rare. A nice way to keep track of who's on form. This page kicks off with the glorious release schedule, which, let's be honest, is the most important bit after the reviews, isn't it? We've got some cracking images splashed about, showing off the likes of Turok 2 looking all menacing, some frantic-looking racing that just has to be Extreme Egg 2, a bit of WWF Warzone with Owen Hart laying the smackdown, and a screenshot of NFL Quarterback Club 99 for the sports fans. There are also a couple of bizarre mascot-like creatures, one blue chap, and some disembodied red lips with teeth, just to keep things weird. The text highlights Acclaim as the featured software house this month, banging on about Turok 2 being on the way, along with their sports titles and Extreme Egg 2. Seems they were big players back then, pushing out a good variety. Down below, Steve introduces the revamped release schedule format, promising it's much better than the old one. Glad they sorted that out. The list itself covers games coming out throughout 1998 and into 1999, helpfully color-coded for UK, American, and Japanese releases, plus the rare beast that is a 64DD title. There's a massive list of games with publishers and rough release windows, giving us a peek at what treats were heading our way. It's the definitive list of what you needed to save your pennies for. The next page continues the release schedule on the left, showing off a few more intriguing character designs alongside a brief list of forthcoming attractions like Forthcoming Attractions and Earthworm Jim 3D that we should keep an eye out for. There's also a prominent one-to-watch feature hyping up what appears to be Battletoads 64, with some rather enthusiastic praise, claiming it's the greatest platformer ever. But the main event is on the right, where the colossal reviews section begins. They make it clear that reviews are the heart of the magazine, which, let's be honest, they absolutely are. There's some striking character artwork accompanying the title. The page breaks down their review system, showing how they mark icons, official releases, and imports. This issue promises deep dives into F-Zero X, Mission Impossible, ISS 98, Star Soldier, 1080 Degrees Snowboarding, and Dizayman 3D, with little screenshots giving us a taste of what's inside. They also introduce their stamp of approval, the bootprint icon for anything scoring over 89%, basically a sign saying go buy this now. We learn about the expert reviewers, and how readers can get involved. Finally, we get a peek at the N64 Pro team's favorite games and what they're looking forward to, and it seems Banjo-Kazooie is quite the popular choice among the lot. Turn the page, the reviews await. A review of F-Zero X highlights its fast-paced, challenging racing gameplay. The reviewer is impressed by the character art, particularly Captain Falcon, and the game's emphasis on speed, featuring various game modes like GP Race, Battle Mode, Death Race, and Time Attack. The game promises high-speed action, with speeds reaching over 780 km per hour. The review notes the game's anticipation, comparing it to Zelda and praising its futuristic courses. F-Zero X is touted as a worthy successor to the SNES original, and the reviewer is enthusiastic about its speed and difficulty. The game costs £50 and includes hidden secrets. Worry. This page delves into F-Zero X's racing mechanics, emphasizing survival strategies. Key moves like the barge and spin attacks are crucial for victory. Managing boost usage is vital, as it drains energy and leaves racers vulnerable. The article highlights the game's increased speed, opponent count, and 3D tracks compared to the SNES original. Tight controls are essential at these high speeds. Finally, the page profiles various vehicles, like the Blue Falcon and Golden Fox, emphasizing the importance of vehicle selection in gameplay. Essentially, it's a crash course in avoiding crashes. This page shows off the sheer speed and variety of Zero X, with loads of screenshots from the King, Queen, and Jack Cups, highlighting tracks like Firefield, Mute City, and Devil's Forest, proper classics. The main review gives it a cracking N64 score of 90%, focusing squarely on the gameplay, which is deemed perfectly balanced, blindingly fast, and never, ever slows down, even with 30 opponents on screen. While the graphics aren't blowing anyone away, compared to the likes of Banjo-Kazooie or Diddy Kong Racing, the review team reckons the pure playability more than makes up for it. There's also chat about the game being ready for the 64D expansion with new tracks and a track editor, plus how you unlock the Master and X Cups, the latter giving you that brilliant random track generator for endless replay value. Everyone who chipped in, Mark, Alex, Steve, Noeli, and a reader named Mick, pretty much agrees the gameplay is top-notch, even if the visuals are a bit plain. It's a game that prioritizes gut-busting speed and pure fun over looking pretty, and honestly, that's what counts. This page dives straight into a review for the highly anticipated Mission Impossible, published by Infogrames and tagged as an adventure game. The big headline questions if it's a monster hit or a massive flop, setting up the review's tone right away. The subheading admits the game was plagued by production problems and had a bumpy ride, but suggests the wait might have been worth it after all. The reviewer kicks off by explaining they failed their own mission to write the review without mentioning GoldenEye, a comparison they are clearly exhausted by. They state that the game is nothing like GoldenEye, and doesn't even want to be, advising readers expecting a GoldenEye clone to just stop reading. It seems the hype machine, calling it a potential GoldenEye beta, really got on their nerves. Screenshots pepper the page, showing off various aspects like Phelps getting his orders, different IMF agents, the Facemaker gadget letting you steal identities, and action in levels like the Embassy and a subpen, which is called out as the only disappointment. The review seems to focus on the game standing on its own merits, as a stealthy adventure title, rather than trying to ape the N64's most famous shooter. It promises the trademark exploding briefcase tradition is still intact. It's clear this game was under immense pressure due to the GoldenEye phenomenon, and the reviewer wants to manage expectations firmly. This Mission Impossible review delves into the gameplay, showcasing the N64 controller's functionality, and the fire escape sequence, emphasizing the disguise mechanic. The reviewer argues it's superior to a simple shooter, highlighting the spy elements, story, gadgets, and missions. While praising the complex plot and adventure aspects post-tutorial, they note graphical inconsistencies in larger outdoor areas. The presence of supporting characters like Sarah, Clutter, Max, and Candice further reinforces the game's spy adventure nature, demanding more than just gunplay. This page continues the deep dive into the Mission Impossible review, showing off more of Ethan Hunt looking moody and some key moments from the game like him dangling from a wire iconic. There's a bit about the face-changing mechanic, which was pretty slick for the time, and some action shots like the sniper sequence. The text expands on the gameplay, mentioning it requires wit more than just shooting, unlike some other spy games we all know and love. It praises the mission variety and structure, highlighting moments like planting smoke generators, or that precarious dangle at the CIA HQ. There's a whole section dedicated to the control system, which sounds like it has its moments, especially when trying to turn quickly, apparently like a supermarket trolley with a dodgy wheel. Ouch. The review dives into the graphics again, calling them unfinished in places but also detailing and lovely in others, like the indoor areas. Critically, the pop-up is mentioned as quite horrendous. Then comes the big comparison. The reviewer boldly claims, MI is the best spy game in years, even better than GoldenEye, though the reader feedback section below clearly shows that wasn't a universally held opinion. It wraps up with the score breakdown and a hefty 92% rating overall. A review of International Superstar Soccer 98 praises its vibrant intro, detailed gameplay, and strategic formation screen. The reviewer is enthusiastic, highlighting the game's humor, like a player relieving himself on billboards, and attention to detail, including realistic stadium representations and animations, like the fourth official holding up a board for substitutions. Even without a World Cup license, the game includes key French stadiums. New features in the British release, like dummy kicks and customizable free kicks, are also praised. The review concludes with a controller diagram outlining the various in-game actions. This page continues the cracking review of IS-98. Blimey, look at all those camera angles. Some are completely daft for actually playing, mind you, especially that dugout one. Only for armchair gaffers, eh? It's interesting to see the differences between the Japanese and British versions. You get real names in Japan but it's all in kanji, while we get pretend names but blessedly in English. Thankfully you can dive into the menus and change those daft-made UP names to something sensible, or just your mates' names if you fancy a laugh. They also cover some gameplay bits, like how hard it is to keep the ball off a defender, and the keeper's antics. Plus, they delve into the game modes like the tricky scenario challenges and the long world league. And would you look at that score? A stonking 96% and a big ol' stamp of approval. Seems everyone agrees this is the best football game about. Despite a few minor moans about licenses and player names, issues you can usually fix yourself anyway. Absolute quality. This page dives into a review of Star Soldier, Vanishing Earth, a 2D shoot-'em-up from Hudson on the N64. After the less than stellar Desaimon 3D, the reviewer questions if this retro-style game can compete with modern titles like the mighty Lylat Wars. Well, blimey, it doesn't sound good. The review absolutely slams it, calling it substandard in almost every way. The graphics are apparently bland, the music is terrible, and the playability is virtually non-existent. They reckon it's even worse than shoot-'em-ups from 10 years prior, which, let's be honest, is quite an insult. There's a diagram showing the controls on the N64 pad. Standard stuff really, using the stick to move and buttons for shooting and bombs. You see various screenshots throughout, showing the vertical scrolling action, some boss fights, and your ship. The reviewer touches on the lack of exciting power-ups, and the game just not doing enough to stand out or utilize the N64's power. Down at the bottom, there's the score, and it's a shocker. A measly 35%, with a penalty from the Software House League for good measure. The feedback section sees other staff and readers piling on, mostly agreeing it's rubbish, and preferring older 2D shooters, or modern 3D ones. Seems like this one's best avoided entirely. This page shifts gears dramatically, thankfully moving away from that Star Soldier debacle, and dives headfirst into a review of the highly anticipated PAL version of 1080 Degrees Snowboarding. Finally, the UK cart is here after what felt like an age. The reviewer sounds absolutely thrilled, saying they've had their sweaty little hands on it, and it's certainly no disappointment. It seems the wait was worth it, as they reckon the game still looks and plays brilliantly, even comparing favorably to the original Japanese version. They note the PAL version might be slightly slower, but it's barely noticeable, and doesn't ruin the experience at all. Graphically, they rave about the animations and environmental effects, particularly the wind whipping and snow spray, which they say add incredible atmosphere. It sounds like the game truly brings the mountain to life. There are mentions of different events like the slalom, which is described as a more disciplined but still enjoyable event. The page features several screenshots showing off the game's visuals, from selecting your board and rider, to hitting the slopes, pulling off tricks, and powering through deep powder. There's also a focus on the training mode, which sounds essential for mastering those tricks. The character art of the main snowboarder looks cool and stylish too. Overall, the review seems overwhelmingly positive, suggesting 1080 Degrees is a top-tier N64 title that holds up remarkably well. This page continues the deep dive into 1080 Degrees Snowboarding, kicking off with some striking character art and a breakdown of the N64 controller, showing how all those buttons and the analog stick come together for pixel-perfect control on the slopes. The review highlights the half-pipe mode, calling it the spot for racking up huge scores and showing off your trick skills. It sounds like the game truly captures the feel of being out there, or at least as close as you'll get without getting cold and wet. We also get introductions to some of the riders you can play as. There's Rob Haywood, the American who's the office all-rounder favourite, Dion Blaster representing Great Britain, built for speed but maybe a handful to master, and the Japanese contingent with Kensuke Kimachi, easy to control but perhaps slower, and Akari Hayami, who sounds like she needs technique over raw power. The reviewer seems genuinely impressed with the game's depth, mentioning race challenges, time trials, and tricks that will keep you hooked for months. It's clear they reckon 1080 Degrees is a top-tier title, with plenty of replayability. The various screenshots show off the action, from pulling tricks to racing neck and neck down the mountain. A preview of 1080 Degrees snowboarding for the N64 reveals an early, finished version. The article praises the game's superior snowboarding gameplay, placing it among the best non-traditional racers, even surpassing some arcade titles. It features customizable music options, a detailed N64 score panel, and impressive graphics. Reviewers highlight the game's control scheme and visuals, though UK launch delays are noted as a minor concern. A strong recommendation, alongside screenshots and a rider profile, concludes with a 92% score. This page is all about Dazaiman 3D, a rather unique beast on the N64 that lets you have a crack at making your very own shoot-'em-ups. The review kicks off lamenting the fact that it's entirely in Japanese, which, as you can imagine, makes the whole thing rather a nightmare if you don't speak the lingo. The screenshots show off some colourful, if slightly basic, 3D shooting action, along with glimpses of the rather complex-looking editor screens, where you can design your ships, enemies, levels, and even mess about with sound. It's described as potentially powerful, letting you build quite intricate games, but the language barrier is a massive hurdle. The built-in games you get are apparently nothing to write home about either. Ultimately, the reviewer is utterly frustrated by the lack of English, pretty much saying it renders the game useless despite the cool concept. The N64 score panel reflects this, showing dismal scores across the board for graphics, gameplay, sound, and lastability, resulting in a frankly shocking 20% overall. Seems like a great idea, completely ruined by the localization situation. Wait for an English version if it ever shows up. This page dives headfirst into the wonderful world of Banjo-Kazooie. It's presented as part 1 of an expert's guide, penned by some chap named Noali, who apparently worked tirelessly to bring us this definitive guide. Bless him. The page covers the basics of the game, starting with the training level, Spiral Mountain, pointing out where to find the honeycomb rings there, and giving a little push towards Gruntilda's lair. It then introduces you to Banjo's pals like Bottles, the mole who teaches you moves, and baddies, such as the wonderfully ugly Gruntilda, and Mumbo Jumbo who can transform you. There's a quick rundown of the main collectibles you'll be hunting for. Jiggies, the puzzle pieces, Jinjos, little fellas in different colors, notes, 100 per world, honeycomb rings for health, eggs for ammo, and those ever-useful one-ups for extra lives. The guide also thoughtfully details some of the essential moves you'll need, like the feathery flap, flip-flap jump, and the beaky barge. It even mentions those tricky witch switches. And overall, it's a pretty handy little primer for anyone needing a nudge in this absolute classic 3D platformer. Seems like they're making sure you don't get stuck missing that one vital piece, unlike some jigsaw puzzles we could mention. This page launches us proper into the first world of Banjo-Kazooie, Mumbo's Mountain. Following on from the introduction, you apparently just jump up some platforms by Gruntilda's painting to get inside. Simple enough. Akis. The bulk of the page is a visual walkthrough, detailing where to snag all 10 jiggies in this tropical paradise. We're told how to get them from that grumpy ape Conga twice, feeding a little chimp, firing eggs at Conga, thanks Bottles, finding one in a Stonehenge-like area, another, after using the Talon Trot, move up a hill, smashing some stone huts, firing eggs at a totem pole, finding one inside Mumbo's skull hut, a bit creepy that, climbing the termite hill, after Mumbo turns you into a termite naturally, and finally collecting all 5 Jinjos scattered around. Speaking of Jinjos, the guide points out where to find the green, pink, blue, on an island, yellow and orange ones to help you nab that final jiggy. There's also a handy section on Learn the Tricks, showing off the crucial moves Bottles teaches you here. Egg firing, essential ammo obviously, the Talon Trot, gotta run up those slopes, and the Beak Buster, smashy smashy. Plus, some bare essentials tips, like ignoring that big angry bull and saving your honeycombs. It seems pretty thorough, mapping out everything you need to conquer Mumbo's Mountain. Level 2, Treasure Trove Cove, involves retrieving 10 Jiggies. Players must defeat Nipper, a giant crab, and complete a quest with Blubber the Hippo. Other Jiggies are found scattered throughout the level, on high platforms, or hidden within a sandcastle-like structure. A witch switch is present, activating additional Jiggies. Flying is a critical mechanic, aided by red feathers. The level features treasure chests, honeycombs from crabs, and clams that need to be egged. Learning shock jump and flying from bottles is also important. Suck. The next page dives into Clanker's Cavern, level 3 in Banjo-Kazooie. Right, you've got to have 50 notes banked to crack this place open, which is just typical of Gruntilda locking everything down. This guide walks you through bagging the 10 Jiggies and finding all the Jinjos hidden around that rusty old whale. They even show you where the witch switch is, always worth finding those for extra goodies later. There's a neat section on essential tips too, like how to handle those pesky eels lurking in the pipes. Watch those buggers. And the big takeaway here? You finally get the Wonder Wing ability from Bottles, making you invincible as long as you've got those precious gold feathers. Proper game changer. Definitely need that for some of the trickier Jiggies inside Clanker. The next page tackles level 4, Bubble Gloop Swamp. Right, to get into this damp little corner of Banjo-Kazooie, you'll need a hefty 180 notes and 7 Jiggies under your belt. The guide points out you should pop over to Bottles near the start to learn the stilt stride move, proper essential for stomping through all that murky water without taking a hit. And here's a cracking tip: morph into the crocodile with Mumbo. He's immune to the swamp goo, which is brilliant for mopping up those notes and Jinjos, though don't expect to climb poles as a croc, obviously. This spread pretty much maps out how to grab all 10 Jiggies in the swamp, from beak-busting huts and giant eggs, to taking on Mr. Vile in the croc's nostril, lovely, and playing Simon with turtles. They even show you where the witch switch is lurking. Good stuff, helps you navigate this soggy mess, and bag all those precious collectibles. This page is the legendary Cheat Zone, proclaiming itself the ultimate cheat guide, updated monthly, no less. They're even dangling a carrot, offering 20 quid for cheats they end up using. Get in! You've got some classic characters gracing the page, Banjo and Kazooie front and center, Yoshi making an appearance, and a cheeky monkey from somewhere or other. They've rounded up a fresh batch this month, covering Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, Mortal Kombat 4, Biofreaks, F-Zero X, and World Cup 98. For Banjo-Kazooie, they crack open the secrets for the big head cheat, and those tricky treasure trove codes you need to earn. Biofreaks gets some love with button guides and how to execute all the gruesome fatalities, always a crowd pleaser. Plus, there's a weird creation date trick to try. All-Star Baseball 99 gives up a couple of codes for novelty players, and Buster Move 2 has a cool sequence to unlock a secret world. If you're hitting the slopes in 1080-degree snowboarding, they tell you how to get the crystal, metal, and panda borders, as well as fancy spin tricks. And Diddy Kong Racing, they've got an absolute metric ton of codes for that, letting you mess with everything from character sizes to bananas and balloons. Seems like they've truly dug deep for these. This page continues the N64 Cheat Zone, detailing cheats for various games. Banjo-Kazooie features body morphing cheats. Forsaken 64 offers level select, gore, and psychedelic modes. Duke Nukem 64, UK version, has infinite fuel and wireframe cheats. FIFA 98 allows for altered players and ball visibility. GoldenEye 007 provides cradle-level help and multiplayer award details. F-Zero X cheats include super small vehicles, more cars/tracks, and customizable ships. ISS64 lets you change teams and enable Big Noggins mode. NBA Courtside offers hidden team unlocks. A controller button diagram is also included. Tekes. The next page is packed with more cheat codes, continuing the N64 Cheat Zone with a bit of variety. We've got some Banjo-Kazooie here again, but this time it's about boosting your gold feathers, blue eggs and red feathers, along with that rather silly moo sound cheat. There's also a strange one about funny game select animations, where all sorts of weird stuff happens before the game starts, like a spring launching Banjo out of a house, absolutely mental. They move on to Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, giving tips for things like a blade shield, a boss mode linked to collectibles, making cash fast, and even surviving big falls. Then it's on to the sports section with NFL Quarterback Club 98 and NHL Breakaway 98. NFL gives you codes for different player sizes, huge, tiny, skinny, etc., plus some handy boosts like unlimited downs. NHL Breakaway lets you mess with player sizes too, and apparently, You can make the ref the size of bloody King Kong. Madden 64 just gets a quick nod for a secret stadium. Warrington. Major League Baseball featuring Ken Griffey Jr. has some hidden teams and a way to mess with the title screen logo. Finally, we hit Mortal Kombat 4, which is where things get properly interesting. You can unlock and play as some bizarre characters like Meat, Noob Saibot, and Goro, and access a cheat menu to make those gruesome fatalities a bit easier to pull off. Good stuff, makes killing much more fun. This page is another packed cheat zone spread featuring codes for GoldenEye, Quake 64, Mortal Kombat 4, Super Mario 64, Turok, and many more N64 classics. This page jumps into the world of peripherals, asking if Joytech is truly reinventing the wheel with their new 64 Pro racing setup. They're making quite the claim, calling it the most significant peripheral since the original joypad itself. The article delves into how they've gone all out, teaming up with the Jordan Grand Prix Formula 1 team to develop this licensed wheel, even launching it at Silverstone like a proper F1 car. The idea is clearly to bring serious realism to console racing games, leveraging the expertise of a real racing team. They talk about the license test and the launchpad, showing how serious they are about this. While they used a PlayStation game for the initial demo, a bit cheeky that, they assure everyone it works brilliantly on the N64, aiming for the perfect formula to get you properly immersed in tearing up the virtual track, far beyond what a standard controller could ever manage. This page is where the real wheeling and dealing happens, the N64 Pro Swap Shop. It's a cracking idea really, your one-stop shop for finding those elusive games you're after, or offloading the ones you're bored with. They've even got a chap's head in the big A of the title. Bit odd, but hey, it grabs your attention. It's basically a big old classifieds section, listing folks across the country wanting to swap or sell games like Fighter's Destiny, Wave Race, GoldenEye, still popular, and a whole heap more. Seems everyone's after Yoshi's Story and Diddy Kong Racing, according to the top swap section, while poor old Mario Kart and Shadows of the Empire are apparently cluttering up people's shelves. There's even a swap of the month featuring International Superstar Soccer 64, a classic. And right at the bottom, there's the form you fill out to get your own add-in, spilling the beans on what you've got, what you want, and even how often you buy the mag. Proper community stuff this is. This page dives headfirst into the world of Gex 64, bringing us a special update on the wisecracking gecko's debut on the N64 this October. The big hook here, according to the title, is the voice actor, none other than Leslie Phillips, who apparently was also in Loaded magazine back in the day, prompting the question if that makes the game any good. Cheeky! The game itself, Gex, Enter the Gecko, was a hit on PlayStation and is set to bring its free-roaming 3D action to the N64. You'll be battling arch-nemesis Rez across beautifully rendered environments and awesome enemies, exploring levels designed to spoof various TV, film, and cartoon genres. There are screenshots showing an Indiana Jones-style level, and Gex himself looking sharp in a tuxedo, though the captions are rather snarky about his behavior in formal wear. They're highlighting features like controllable camera angles, wall climbing, suction cup paws, and that signature whip-cracking tail attack. Leslie Phillips lends his classic British accent and over 500 lines of dialogue to Gex, adding to his vibrant personality. The magazine seems pretty positive, noting the game looks polished and promises an exciting atmosphere, handled by the chaps at Crystal Dynamics. Looks like Gex is ready to take on the N64. The next page continues our look at Gex 64, delving further into what Crystal Dynamics are cooking up. They're talking about pushing the limits of 3D technology here, rendering beautiful environments and enemies. Rob Dyer from Crystal Dynamics weighs in, saying they're full force onto the N64, though he admits seeing Banjo-Kazooie might have tempered their excitement slightly. Fair enough, Banjo is top tier, but they're open-minded, and looking forward to the finished version. We get a hilarious spread called It's Fun to Stay at the YMCA, showcasing Gex in various questionable poses and outfits, doing what's described as a one-lizard dance routine. Honestly, the captions like Captain CAAAAAAA, VEMAAAN, and I'm a little teapot short and stout are brilliant. There's also a section on the various baddies you'll face, titled Ghouls and Ghosts and Ranksters, featuring creepy aliens, ghouls, and even a rather angry-looking Trex. It seems Gex has quite the rogues gallery to contend with in this hostile world. Looks like plenty of variety in both Gex's wardrobe and the monsters he'll be slapping with his tail. This page takes us away from platforming lizards and plunges us into the dark world of Castlevania. We're getting a preview of the latest vampire hunting adventure, which is landing on the N64 this winter and leaping into the third dimension. Konami is bringing back the classic action fans expect, but with a whole new set of characters and a shiny new 3D engine. You'll be choosing your hero from a fresh lineup, including Cornell Reinhardt, who can morph into a wolf, the magical Carrie Eastfield, or even Cola, who brings a chainsaw to a whip fight. Brilliant! Schneider Belmont is also available. Each character apparently offers a unique experience and story as you explore Dracula's sprawling castle and the creepy gardens outside. They mention secrets galore, and an interesting mechanic where the time of day affects enemies. Plus, apparently, there's a risk you might even get bitten and become a vampire yourself. Konami is bigging this one up massively, calling it the most expressive and impressive Castlevania game ever, and boasting about the CD quality music. They've even made the audacious claim that Castlevania 64 will make Resident Evil look like Yoshi's Story. Blimey. And don't worry too much, they assure us the chances of getting bitten are very slim indeed. There are also neat little historical tidbits on horror film legends, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, which is a perfect fit for the theme. Looks like it could be a belter. This page takes us into the wacky world of Glover, another N64 preview. Forget vampire hunting for a minute, because here we're dealing with Moo, a glove. A lone white glove, apparently combining the skills of Michael Jackson, Mickey Mouse, and even a snooker referee. Right then, the game sees you controlling this glove character who's paired up with a magic crystal ball. The ball seems crucial for navigating the levels, rolling over bonuses, and solving puzzles, though the reviewer notes the crystal is very brittle and needs careful handling, not just throwing about willy-nilly. There are apparently 7 lost crystals to find across 6 themed worlds. Developed by Interactive Studios, the folks behind the classic Dizzy games, and published by Hasbro, Glover is looking pretty far along at 95% complete and aiming for a November release. It looks like a bright, colourful 3D platformer. Quite distinct from Castlevania, I must say. The controls are laid out showing all sorts of moves for both the glove on its own and when it's with the ball, including bouncing, throwing, and some sort of fist slam. The reviewer seems cautiously optimistic, particularly about the ball control, even suggesting Glover is better at it than Michael Jackson or Mickey Mouse. Brave words. Looks like there's a bit of camera control too, which is always handy. Definitely one to keep an eye on. The next page takes us right into the twisted world of Earthworm Jim, getting the 3D treatment on the N64. Crikey. Looks like our favourite worm has taken a nasty blow to the head, and the game sees him literally journeying through his own messed up mind to recover. The title certainly grabs you. The Worm That Turned Nasty. Interplay are publishing this one, developed by Viz Interactive, and it's aiming for a November release, dispelling those rumours of silly name changes. They're using some fancy voxel technology for the graphics, which apparently makes things smoother and avoids the old polygon look. Good to hear they're pushing the tech a bit. The screenshots show Jim bouncing around in some rather surreal-looking 3D levels, with health and item counts visible. There's a nice big picture of Jim looking buff, reminding us he's more than just a piece of bait. The text mentions familiar faces like Psychro and Professor Monkey Forehead, alongside some new weirdos, all wrapped up in Jim's signature bizarre humor. The Adventure Fest box talks about sub-games and weapons, including a guaranteed egg gun. Sounds utterly bonkers, just like Jim. It seems Jim's first foray into 3D is promising a great deal of life in the old worm yet. Hopefully, it lives up to the legacy. This page is a cracking big advert for Department, a mail order place that was all about buying, selling and exchanging your games back in the day. They clearly covered a massive range, boasting over 10,000 titles in stock for 5 years. Dominated by N64, they also feature the brand new Dreamcast console and the classic Game Boy. The pictures showcase some absolute belters. You've got stunning shots from 0x and 1080 snowboarding, plus teasers for the legendary Zelda 64 coming soon. There are glimpses of Castlevania 64, Conker 64, Mission Impossible, and Turok 2, reminding you of the sheer variety on offer. They weren't just selling, they'd buy your old games for cash, or give you 2/3 of the value in exchange. They even offered console repairs and a no-quibble guarantee if you weren't happy with your purchase. And get this, free next-day delivery if you ordered early. Proper service, covering UK, Japanese and US imports. Definitely the place to call if you were hunting down something specific, or just wanted to shift some old plastic. This page is all about getting you hooked on the magazine. It's a big subscription drive, featuring some delightfully weird 3D rendered alien chaps chatting about the benefits. They're banging on about the key selling points. How subscribing means you get the magazine delivered right to your door completely free of charge, and get this, they do all the hard work. One little fella is amazed you save almost 50% by getting the next 13 issues for a mere £20 in the UK, which works out at just £1.54 per issue. Flipping bargain. The other alien is chuffed he'll never miss an issue, and even get it before it hits the shops. Out of this world apparently. The main call to action screams, "Wow, save almost 50%, and highlights the £20 for 13 issues deal, pointing out the rather specific saving of £18.87. They make it out to be incredibly easy to subscribe, with a form to fill in. There's a handy hotline for credit card users, and they even push the direct debit option as hassle-free, letting you pay just £5 every 3 months. Definitely a good way to make sure you got your gaming fix, without fail back then. This page is all about competitions. First up, you've got the smallest giveaway ever 3, which is just fantastic. They're giving away some truly random stuff here, like original Rat Attack artwork, because who doesn't need that? A bottle of 10,000-year-old Loch Ness water, presumably tastes like old water, and some wrestling gear. You just answer a few daft questions to win. Then there's the main event. Vote for the best Nintendo game of all time. Now this is serious business. You get to pick your top 5 favorite Nintendo games across all platforms. Warren 64, SNES, NES, or Game Boy. They even let you vote for games that aren't out yet, which is forward thinking. The prize for this? A telly and 5 games. Much better than old water. The magazine staff even chip in with their own lists to give you some ideas, featuring classics like GoldenEye 007, Super Mario World, and ISS 98. Get your votes in by the 30th of September. This page is a bit of a treasure trove if you were looking to fill in the gaps in your N64 Pro collection back in the day. Right at the top is all about back issues, letting you know you could snag any previous issue for just £3 a pop. They show off the covers from the first 11 issues, featuring cracking games like Extreme G, Yoshi's Story, 1080 Snowboarding, World Cup 98, Forsaken, and even Zelda and Banjo-Kazooie. Each one came with some sort of free gift, like guides or stickers. Proper collector's stuff. Then there's a couple of adverts showing you could buy official Nintendo 64 game cases. Because, let's be honest, keeping those cartridges safe was serious business. Finally, down at the bottom you've got new generation consoles. This was a mail-order place where you could get your hands on games for pretty much any console going, including imports, with next-day delivery available. Definitely a handy way to get hold of stuff if your local shop was a bit lacking. This page dives into the mailbag with the Pro Post feedback section, offering readers the chance to win an N64 game just for writing in. The hot topics readers are weighing in on are the never-ending N64 versus PlayStation debate, the perceived lack of games on the N64, and the mysterious 64DD add-on. The letters cover quite a bit of ground. We hear from someone who's ditched their PlayStation for the N64. Good move, arguing that while the competition might have more games, the N64 has the actual gameplay that keeps you coming back. There's also chat about using converters to play Japanese imports, like 1080 Snowboarding on PAL machines. Proper dedication. Diddy Kong Racing gets a mention, with one reader finding it a bit slow, while the N64 Pro team reckon it was brilliant in single and multiplayer, contrasting it with other races like San Francisco Rush, which felt more like the real deal. The big question mark hangs over the 64DD, with readers asking if it'll ever come out and how much it'll cost. The reply isn't encouraging, suggesting it won't be released. The page also features some cool artwork, including a character that looks suspiciously like Brian Fury, and a lovely picture of someone from Castlevania 3D, a game mentioned as part of the N64's move into more adult titles. Overall, its clear gameplay reigns supreme for these readers, graphics be damned. This page dives back into the reader mailbag, and it seems the tide is turning. The N64 is finally hitting its stride, with folks getting excited about a stack of blinding games coming out this summer like Banjo-Kazooie, Mission Impossible, and the ever-elusive Zelda 64. It's great to see Nintendo and Rare finally delivering the goods, as one reader gleefully puts it after jumping ship from that other machine. Told ya? We've got shout-outs for brilliant titles like Gomon, pictured here looking slightly manic, though one punter wonders why Nintendo doesn't advertise their own cracking games as much as Rare's a fair point that. There's also a bit of a dust-up over the football games, with IS 98 getting high praise as the best, while World Cup 98 gets a bit of stick, despite some folks loving it. Diddy Kong Racing and Super Mario 64 are also featured with screenshots, proving the classics still hold up. You can also see the quirky character from Weetrix pop up, a game that certainly stood out from the crowd. It's clear the N64 is finally proving itself, and the readers are feeling it, even if there's still the odd grumble about things like advertising or old debates that just won't die. The key takeaway: gameplay wins, as it jolly well should. This page kicks off what looks like a proper deep dive, titled The Ultimate Guide to N64 Gaming, complete with a massive, rather friendly-looking Banjo and Kazooie taking center stage, proving the hype from the last page was justified. It's set up as the go-to source before you spend your hard-earned cash, warning there are lurking war gods amongst the truly amazing games. You can see the charts right here, showing off the top rating games according to N64 Pro and other mags, with Banjo-Kazooie making a splashing new entry at number 1 for Pro, and GoldenEye still holding strong across the board. They also highlight the top racing games, giving marks out of 100 for titles like 1080 Degrees Snowboarding and Diddy Kong Racing. Down the page, they give us quick hits on various games. We've got reviews covering everything from the slick slopes of 1080 Degrees Snowboarding and the futuristic racing of Aerogauge, to the slightly odd Airborders and Augusta Masters Golf. Banjo-Kazooie gets a big write-up as a new entry, lauded as an absolute masterpiece. Even Bomberman pops up with a couple of entries. There's also a handy stamp of approval symbol, explained basically, a sign that a game is a must-buy. Seems like they're pulling no punches here, giving you the lowdown on what's worth your time and what might be a bit of a dud. This N64 page profiles Diddy Kong Racing and other titles, delving into racing, fighting and shooting games. Cruisin' USA is criticized, while Dual Heroes is deemed uninspired. GoldenEye 007 is praised as a smooth secret agent game. ISS 64, especially ISS World Cup France 98, is lauded as a strong football sim. Diddy Kong Racing receives a high score. Other games like Bust-A-Move and a somewhat disappointing Doom 64 are also discussed. The page concludes with a look at top beat-em-ups, highlighting Fighter's Destiny. Overall, a diverse selection of N64 games are reviewed, with varying degrees of praise. Please provide the text you would like me to summarize. Laisawire. Cheshire Warrington also has many musical roots. Please provide the text you would like me to summarize. Hawasi Hinshi, Hawasi Yiki. This page gives us a glimpse of what's coming next month, headlining with an exclusive review of Ubisoft's Buck Bumble. Looks like a proper beat-em-up starring a rather cool-looking bee character. Hopefully it's got a sting in its tail. They're also teasing WWF Nitro for some grappling action, a realistic race sim in F1 World Grand Prix to fill out the N64's driving portfolio, and something described as the craziest genre-busting release this year, Iggy's Wrecking Balls. Sounds intriguing, that last one. The bulk of the page is taken up by a massive special reserve mail order section, offering discount prices on a huge range of games and accessories for N64, PlayStation, and others via phone or mail, with membership benefits and free gifts available. There's also a look at some upcoming release dates for various consoles.